these people are struggling and they're not making money from their talent.
That creatives are generally worse at marketing.
It's that sort of shock factor.
It's an unnatural balance.
Are you just seen as a bit weird, or does it work?
Let's say I sacked you. Oh my God, I'm unemployed.
This is the Learn, Create, Thrive podcast by visualeducation.com. Episode 5, The Secrets Behind Creative Marketing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Learn, Create, Thrive podcast. I'm here with, as usual, Tim Godion, Creative Director, Ben Toom, Head of Video Production, and Emma Harris, our Marketing Executive. And this episode's kind of pertinent to you because this episode is why creatives are so bad at marketing and how to fix it. I'm Carl Taylor, photographer and director. Let's get stuck into it. We're going to let Emma have the lead on this one because this is kind of her area. I guess, Emma, many creatives struggle with this as a subject because they're so focused on creating, they don't realize that they need to run a business as well.
I think that's it. I think quite often we see creatives and they are amazing at what they do. They are absolutely brilliant. They're creating amazing work, whether that's art or photography or graphic design. But yeah, they don't realize that actually they have to do a lot of marketing to go with that. And whether that be social media, email marketing, having a website, having a blog, there's a lot to it. And it's not just creating amazing artwork and putting it out there.
But surely that's applicable to any business, Tim.
I think it is, but I think with a lot of people get into creative businesses or set up creative businesses because that's their passion, isn't it? So they love painting, they love taking photographs, they love making videos or film. So that's almost, you have a bit of a blinkered approach when you start off in your business. I just want to be taking photos all day.
Yeah,
you
but
don't necessarily realise.
Just because I'm in an argumentative mood, maybe a chef just wants to cook all day.
Yeah. But
I suppose that's the same. But when in that case, normally you're working in, you do get freelance chefs that work out and go round and work from different kitchens or that, or have small businesses that set up their own. But a lot of those sort of businesses, I suppose you're working for a hotel or a business or a restaurant, which would then be kind of the restaurant manager or the looking to do that.
I don't know. I kind of see, obviously being a chef can be a creative role, creative job. But I do think that chefs are more business focused. Restaurateurs are more business focused. Let's say you open your own restaurant. You know how difficult it is to get people through the door, how you got to market, you got to have a certain niche, certain type of food and all those things. I think actually that is testament to the fact that creatives are generally worse at marketing because I think chefs that run a restaurant know better.
Do you think with the chefs running the restaurant, though, like if you had around a food van, you would just turn up where there's people and then they would eat?
No, I'm talking about a proper restaurant. Proper restaurant.
People always need to eat there and eat out and stuff. Do you not think that I suppose, marketing would help, wouldn't it? If you didn't have any marketing for a restaurant, it's not going to be as... Yeah. Do you think, I was thinking with creatives though, do you think there's an element of, because it's so hard to get into an actual working full-time job in the creative industry, that they they've spent so much time working to get there and refining their skills. I know a chef obviously has skills as well, that they just they've done the work and they just don't want to do more. Right.
So maybe in that sense, many creatives aren't self-employed. I suppose the topic of this conversation is for the ones that are self-employed, because obviously if you're a graphic designer and you work in an agency, or you in video production working here, etc., you don't have to worry about your income because it's set and fixed. Yeah. So specifically, Emma, we're talking about self-employed artists, painters, photographers, videographers. Why are they bad at marketing?
Why? Well, it's a big question, isn't it? And I think it's because they've got a lot to do. If you're running your own business, whatever it is, but especially as a creative, setting up a photo shoot, doing all that takes time. That's a lot of time of your day. You're contacting clients, you're doing this, you're that, you're coming up with concepts, you're actually doing the shoot, you're doing the post-production. Where in that do you do your marketing? And if you don't know anything about marketing, if you're sort of winging it a bit, what do you put your time into? Should I be writing blog posts all day? Should I be emailing people, cold calling people? Should I be going round places? It's a blooming huge thing, marketing. And it's about knowing what you should do and what you should prioritize to actually get your money's worth.
If you've been shooting all day and then you get home in the evening, you're probably going to be retouching as well.
100%.
So when are you going to actually do this?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
One of the things we've got on our list here, and let's try and stick to the script, guys.
Sorry.
Why self-promotion can feel unnatural for many artists, writers, musicians, and other creatives. Let's delve into that. Why does it feel unnatural? And from my perspective as a creative, I personally haven't had a problem with marketing. I suppose maybe the success I've seen in my business as a self-employed creative has come from the fact that I am actually okay with marketing, and I've always worked very hard on marketing. But I can understand someone like Tim, who's a bit more scatterbrained, as an illustrator and artist. It does feel unnatural because the process of being creative and applying your creativity is so far removed from corporate business type world of which is what marketing comes from. Yeah. It's an unnatural sort of, balance as such. It's like saying you want to be a nurse because you like looking after people, but then being told that you've got to spend your whole day bricklaying. It's just not the same job. It's a totally different job. And that's why gelling the two together, I think, is the real problem.
Obviously, you've been a photographer for so long. Do you think marketing's gotten harder or easier since,
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I think it's got easier in that it's easier to reach more people, but it's harder in that easier reach means that everyone is using the same methods to try and reach through social media. Yeah. My early days of marketing, which we can talk about later, those methods were very much more analog, if you like, print-based focus, brochures, printing, leaflets, cold calling or telephone calls to potential contacts. It was very much more difficult personally and emotionally because these days, what are they called, millennials or Gen Zs, Gen Ys, whatever, they don't like picking up a phone. They're scared of communication. They only want to communicate through a barrier such as an email where they feel safe, surrounded by their firewall of, hey, don't touch me, I'm like super sensitive type stuff. Back in the day, you had to go and have a meeting. You had to call the agency boss. You had to deliver your brochure to them in your portfolio, and you had to go and see them. And I think that's still pertinent today. If we look at some successful creatives that I know, they all still use some of the older school techniques,
more traditional methods.
Those techniques are still applicable whether you're doing them in the old traditional way or if you're doing it online, getting that conversation, that networking. Because I'm the same as Carl. Like when I first set up my business as doing an illustration, had an agent in London, but I remember getting that agent in London, the agency that I used to work through for doing book covers and publishing and editorial and advertising projects. This was before even mobile phones had come out. I had to sit in a public phone box with a diary, a kind of a list of people that I want to hit up and make sure. Literally, you're nervous. I was like early 20s at the time, phoning these big agencies and big companies in London at the time, and I was living down in Cornwall at that time in the UK, and you've got to get through, like say you're putting 50p's in the slots, you're trying to get to, you've researched who you need to speak to at the different companies. And I'm trying to set up, my plan then was I was going to go to London for a week and I wanted to line up a series of meetings so my time was well spent. So I had a meeting every couple of hours throughout the 3 days that I was there. All the key people that I needed to speak to. And it paid off because I got in with a really great agency.
Yeah, but you had to do the legwork.
I had to do the legwork, yeah. So I had to sit there and take a deep breath, dial the number and go, hi, I'm Tim. I'm an artist from Cornwall. Can I come and see you? I'm in London next week. Could I pop in on Tuesday afternoon, maybe at 2?
And I bet you, Emma, that there's a lot of creatives, younger creatives, and I don't mean to dish you guys, apart from you being a bit pansy-ish about all of this, is you have to put legwork in. I can bet you there's a number of younger creatives listening to this podcast that just think, hey, I ain't doing that. I'm just going to post my images on social media. I'm just going to use social media and networking, and I'm not going to talk to anyone.
Yeah, I think people think that even if you are creating amazing work, the business will just come to you, and that's just not the case.
Not the case.
You know, we see in our platform where we've got a lot of creatives around us, we see some absolutely incredible work, but these people are struggling and they're not making money from their talent because they are not putting that effort in, or they're not marketing savvy. They don't have a clue what they're doing.
I think a lot of it is, it's not necessarily like the number of likes you get on socials doesn't necessarily equate to the amount of work that you get.
No,
you can have
100%.
tens of thousands or even millions of views and people
But
liking you.
I think
but you need to connect to that one person at the agency that you need to get that job from.
Exactly. And I think people lose sight of what's important. Like, you see people who, you know, they might have 300,000 followers and posting all their art. That doesn't mean they're actually successful. Yeah, they've got all these likes, they've got all these followers, but they might not actually be making that much money from it. Yet on the flip side, there are creatives that we know who are doing amazing jobs. They're working for the best brands in the industry, but they've only got 10,000 followers on Instagram.
Well,
they use it in a different way,
I know
don't they?
some that aren't even on Instagram.
Exactly.
There are some of the most successful, highly paid commercial artists, photographers that don't even have social media because they're already in a network of, you know, agencies and art directors and producers. And
I think that comes down to what people actually think marketing is. I think especially maybe, I don't want to diss on a younger generation again. I'm that generation, I think. But like, we think that it's just social media. That's your marketing. And it's just not, you know, social media, a couple of Facebook ads, but it's not. There is just so much more to it.
Surely a lot of it would depend on what you're actually, like, what you're doing as a
100%.
photographer. Because if you're like, say if you're, or an artist, say if you're selling prints or you're obviously, then probably if you did have like 2 million subscribers on Instagram, that would probably be beneficial because it's like mass marketing, you know, it's not like business to business and stuff.
It's like you're, you know, if you're a wedding photographer, you want to be on, let's say, Facebook, because that's where your families are, that's where you're seeing family photos, you're sharing your images, blah, 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 blah. You know, like you say, if you're doing prints and more creative stuff, maybe it's Instagram. If you're business to business, you want to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so it does.
People don't think about it. They're just,
it's industry specific. If you, like you said, if you're just selling prints, but I don't believe there are many people in the world making a living just from selling prints. I don't believe, yes, I believe it, say, for example, wedding or portrait photographers, social media, perfect tool. That's why it's called social. And that type of photography is called social photography. But in the more general commercial world, we're doing a bit of everything. You know, you're shooting for architects, for hospitality, tourism, hotels, businesses, advertising agencies. And it's a broad business to business market where you need to make direct connections with people off the back of a portfolio. One thing that I really want to emphasize is I get a lot of questions from people that come to me going, oh, how did you make it successful in photography? How did you get this career? I want that by next year. They don't realize it took 30 years to happen. The first 10 years of my career, well, after I was a photojournalist, but the first 5 to 10 years of my career as a commercial photographer was nowhere near what I'm doing now. It was basic, low level, local area, local stuff. And it gradually grew and grew as your name got more prolific and your work got better and better and you improved and you made more connections. It wasn't an overnight success to be shooting a campaign for a high street brand. That took many, many years to achieve. And I think the problem is that a lot of people want instant success, instant everything. They've got that, I want to know it all, I want it all now. They don't necessarily want to put the man hours in or think that you need to get to that position.
It's about building your reputation as a creative, isn't it?
And almost your own personal brand, which I think is applicable even if you're working in a bigger agency. You're marketing yourself within the company that you work for is also important for your kind of career path and the growth in your increase of salary each year, that kind of thing.
And I think because creative things, obviously it can be individual, but it's also so collaborative, isn't it? Even as a graphic designer, you're working with artists, or as a photographer, you're working with makeup artists and things, and you've got to sell yourself as a person. So these people want to work with you again. The clients think you're amazing. You did a great job. Again, weddings, you want to get recommended to other people as a person. So you need to be selling yourself as a person rather than just what you do and your final products as well.
And the solution, and I know 2 or 3 successful photographers and videographers, or filmmakers as you call it, that do this. They know they're rubbish at marketing, so they get someone else to do the marketing for them. They get a marketing assistant. You can actually employ marketing assistants, freelance ones, that will work remotely. They operate for several different businesses, even different types of business. You tell them what you are, who you are, what your services are, who your target audience is, and they can help with all of the letter writing, arranging meetings, getting your work out there. And I know, as I said, several that use these services because they just can't be bothered with it themselves.
And it's just so complex. There's just so much. There's such a breadth of stuff out there. And if you can save yourself that time, that's time that you can put into learning a new skill, creating new artwork, exploring something that you wanted to explore. So I think, there's ways of doing that. But I do think on the flip side, if you are wanting to sell yourself as a person, and in that sort of way, so like Tiff that we've had,
the artist,
Tiffany
Art,
her whole thing is like, she's exciting, her work's bright and bold, it's sort of about her and how amazing, like that has to be done by her, not by someone else. That's her personality. So I think there are benefits to that for certain areas, but in some areas you do just have to
I think that's where there's a differentiation, isn't there, between the personal brand. I think, and a personal brand is really important with creatives, whether you're working within a large organisation or you're individual freelancing, because there's a reason why that large organisation employed you, and that's because of you, your creative ideas, your skill sets, and your kind of personality as well. It's probably come into it, and that is a different approach. Like you say, that's got to be more personal. That's your voice that's coming out there. That's your work and your personality you're putting out there. But
she puts a huge amount into her social media profile, bouncing around, jumping about. It must be extremely tiring. That would wear me down to the point that I wouldn't have any creative energy left.
I think that's where it comes down to do what you actually enjoy. Like if you love writing and you want to write long blog posts about a shoot that you're up to, focus on blog writing, get some blogs out on your website, write email newsletters. If you love that, being on camera, getting all your energy out, blah, 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 then do that. Marketing can be really boring. So if there are ways that you can...
That's interesting you saying that. That's your job.
I love my job, but it can. Sometimes you are just staring at a spreadsheet all day.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the marketing methods.
You need to make it fun as well.
And I think as well, what I found over the years that I've been working as a creative, and I've done it since I left art college, forever, really. One of the most
since the time of the Romans.
since before us, Tim.
But one of the most important factors has been building relationships with individuals in the industry and that personal networking, because I've always found that the majority of your work comes from working for a client that you get on with well. There's a good connection there. They enjoy working with you, and also they've got confidence that you're going to deliver the job on time and to a high standard.
And that delivers repeat business.
That does. And then that gets you more business. So it's worth putting the legwork out to do the networking, make the phone calls and create that kind of personal relationship. Like go to what I used to do when I first started out, as well as get involved with young business groups, kind of Chamber of Commerce, those sort of things in all your local areas. There's these kind of networking business groups that you can become a member of or join, go around to breakfast meetings and that, and just start to meet people. It's quite scary putting yourself out there. I mean, the first couple of times you can just kind of stand back and sip a coffee in the corner and kind of take in the atmosphere and work out how you could maybe have a better pitch or a better approach next time. It's sort of a slowly thing, but it's building those relationships with the key individuals and key companies that you want to work with.
And I think it's like you say, like with repeat business, I think so many people and creatives that we talk about, like, how do I get to new people? How do I get in front of new people? But actually they forget about the people that they've already got. Yes. They forget about the customers or the clients that they've had. Yeah. And I think that's where we've seen some really successful things. Like, I can't remember the wedding photographer, but I saw something the other day where there was a wedding photographer, but she also did newborn shoots. And what she'd do is she'd send a brochure out on the wedding anniversary, like, congratulations, it's been a year since I photographed your wedding, here's a little, I don't know, card with the wedding, with a little thing about their newborn shoots, because she's thought, oh, these people that I photographed last year, they're probably thinking about starting a family, let's do that. And it's thinking about those little clever things, really thinking about who your people are and how you can make more money out of the people who already know you, had a great experience with you, sent you a review. And I think that's one thing that people don't think about at all.
That's a really simple thing to do, isn't it? Yeah. Just having a spreadsheet with some contacts on it, some dates on it 100%. That you can then, and you can even like use systems where you can automate that as well.
Some of that databasing is so important because you can record. I used to record in the early days every client that came through the door, what's their name, address, email address, contact number, what personal details can you know about them. If they became a regular client, do you know their birthday, send them a bottle of wine, that sort of stuff. Keeping that personal touch and momentum going, and then keeping track of them, because a lot of creatives and art directors I've worked with, they move to different agency or different business, and you've got to keep track of them to keep working with them. And occasionally I've got new work from new clients and new jobs because it was an art director that I had a good relationship with that had then moved to another agency that had a different set of clients. So that whole process is too much to remember in your head. You need to use databases. You need to keep good databases of information. One of the other things I've got on the list here that I think creatives suffer with, which is kind of paradoxical really, because they have to put their work out there, but it's the fear of rejection or judgment that can put them off from marketing themselves, because they don't like being told no, either no, we don't want you, or that might infer that your work isn't good enough, which it might not be. That potentially is another factor.
Do you reckon there's also the opposite of that they think their work will sell itself?
Right. Maybe they're overconfident.
I think they don't need to market.
It does swing both ways.
I think it does.
I've seen some people that I think you're not really quite ready yet to be in the industry working at the level you're pitching yourself at. You need to spend a little bit more time working on your portfolio, working on your sort of skill sets. And then, like you say, there's other people that are absolutely amazing, but they're quite nervous of actually putting themselves out there. And that's the difficult thing. And I think there's that fear of the kind of, even on socials where you can sit behind the device and you don't actually put you don't even need to put your real face out there. Do you know what I mean? It could be an icon or something, one piece of your work, but that fear of rejection and bad comments. But generally, there's only a few sort of trolls out there, and most comments are very positive, and most people are very kind, and most criticism is kind of constructive as well. So that's not a bad thing to get some feedback from people.
No, but
help to use it.
But there is a problem with that, because many people are kind in the commentary they give, and sometimes that becomes, the artist then starts to build a confidence about their work that is false, because the kindness was actually a little bit, what's the word? Sort of overly weighted towards being kind rather than being realistically critical. And we see this sometimes with people that, young girls that want to be models because they've been told by their family since they're 6-year-olds, you can model, you're gorgeous. But it's obviously just their family talking to them, or, artists have been told on Flickr or Facebook or wherever, or Instagram, oh, your work's amazing, it's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And then they've got this in their mind because they haven't unbiasedly judged themselves against those that are actually successfully working in the industry. But equally, you see some photographers, let's say, for example, your example where you said you could be a really amazing, absolutely top level, but you're too scared to market yourself, okay? So that person could be the best in the world And if they didn't tell anyone, no one's going to give them any work whatsoever. 100%. But then you could have someone who's only 75% as good or 60% as good, who's really good at networking, really good at marketing, who would get some work. Yeah. And of course, that's where the situation arises where you go, well, why are they getting the work? They're not even that great. And it does come down to the fact that you've got to be to a certain level, because the commercial world and industry will not accept rubbish. No. Not most of the time anyway. But there is a sort of benchmark of quality you need to reach. But it seems unfair sometimes, doesn't it? Because someone much better might not be getting that work.
And it does come down to those kind of business skills, doesn't it? And the marketing is the kind of key part of it. Like, because you could be bad at business and bad at charging the right amount for your work, but amazing at marketing, and you'll still get
Surely your personality and your people skills is a massive factor of this as
Huge.
well. Yeah. If you just didn't come across well in these meetings that you managed to get, then no one's going to really hire you. If you had like great banter and
absolutely. People love working with people and people they get along with. So they're willing to accept maybe that you're not quite as good as so-and-so down the road. I don't like so-and-so down the road. It's not a nice person or something.
They understand what my vision is. They do this, they do that. They're great fun to have on shoot, not vice versa. Right?
We are a social species.
You know, you don't want someone who's a bit weird standing in the corner doing your wedding photography, even if they're great shots. It's like, if it ruins the vibe of the day,
could spoil the day.
Like you don't want that. But if you meet up with someone and they're really lovely, they give you a glass of champagne whilst you're talking through the stuff, you have this amazing experience, then it's different, isn't it? You're sold by the person rather than if you walk into a dark room and they say, I can do this, and even if it's amazing, it just doesn't seem right.
But I think as a creative, that's where you need to almost look at what your best skill sets are and what the best niches areas for your business is. Because like your example for wedding photography, if you haven't got good people skills, you could be an amazing photographer, but you're going to find doing a wedding very stressful and hard work, because it's part of it is about being able to bring the best out of people that aren't used to being photographed. You're not working with models, you're working with families and people that are probably quite nervous or just freeze when the camera's pointed at them. So you need to be able to get a good photo out of that.
I've got an analogy going back to chefs and restaurants. And, it's a great
you
analogy.
love an analogy.
I love an analogy, right? Going back to what you said about like, it could ruin your day having someone there shooting who could deliver the most amazing wedding photos and videos and what have you ever. Or an artist painting your portraits of your kids who do an amazing job, but they're just not, sociable or whatsoever. That's a bit like going to a restaurant that has the worst decor, the most rude waitresses and staff, and it's ugly inside, but it's the best food in the world. Or going to a beautiful, warm, cozy restaurant with plush seating and little booths and candlelight and lovely lighting, friendly, warm staff. The food is only as 70% or 60% as good as the really good food. You're still going to prefer going to 100%. That restaurant because part of the experience, isn't it? And that's a bit
it's
like
not just about the final result. It's not just about the final image that you produce, the final painting. It's the whole.
It's the whole experience,
whole process.
If you're like a social photographer like that as well, and then like these people don't necessarily like having their photo taken and stuff, but if you have your wedding done like that, and then you were saying you get like a newborn shoot or maternity shoot, you're comfortable with that photographer, and it's more like it's more like you said, and a better experience. You're more relaxed.
But it's like I got a piece of artwork done for it was for my mum's birthday. It was like quite an expensive piece of paper cut art, and I only chose this person because I'd bought postcards from them in the past and I liked their work. I saw it on socials, and then when I bought a load for Christmas, she sent me a little postcard with a lovely thank you note. And I just knew when I wanted to get my mum something quite significant, I was like, that's going to be a lovely experience dealing with this this lady. And it was, and the whole thing. And now I'm waiting for an event to buy something else from her because the whole process was lovely. Now I could have probably got someone on Fiverr, not this good, but I could have paid anyone to do something, but it was the experience of that. And I think that comes into everything creative.
Okay, we're going to move on to some interesting creatives that have nailed marketing using unusual techniques, if you like. Let's take the artist Banksy. We all know who he is, don't we?
Wow.
Now, in his instance, it's how anonymity and mystery has turned him into an iconic brand, and breaking those conventions can be a marketing strategy. It would be really interesting to know when and where and how he started and how he built such fame by maintaining this anonymity. That became his signature, his trademark.
Yeah. Is his graffiti, is it stand out better than other graffiti?
Probably not.
I don't really know about graffiti.
No, I don't either. But
it's just got stencils, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a very recognisable style. And I think it's that kind of, I think the same with a lot of art and artists, it's that sort of shock factor that works really well as a marketing tool. Like
social commentary,
the
that sort of thing.
The message
it gets people talking. It's like the virality of it, even before virality, isn't it?
It's the message in his images that I find.
How do you get like a bit of graffiti on a wall to be like globally recognised? You know that.
It's so funny as well, because he's like, say for example, on his social media such as Instagram, he has 13 million followers. And he follows no one.
I love that. That's amazing.
It's just incredible. 13 million followers. But how does he actually make any money?
He sells his work, doesn't he?
Does he sell his work?
Does he sell his work? I know there was that one that was auctioned.
The one that was
shredded in Sotheby's or whatever.
I'm guessing, I don't know. It is.
It really works well.
It's for making the news, isn't it?
But for someone who's anonymous, that gets so much exposure, literally every time he puts some art graffiti on a wall in a city somewhere, it's on the news.
They cut it. They cut it out, don't they?
But again, it comes down to that. He didn't start doing that. To be honest, I don't know. But I don't think the first one he did.
There are rumours that he was from
for
Massive Attack, the group in
I was going to say, there's
Bristol,
a lot of rumours of celebrities that are him, which is...
But I find it amazing that he's managed to keep that anonymity.
I know.
Given that he has to actually go out in public. I know they go out and do this at like 3 a.m, dress up as workmen using cherry pickers and what have you. The other one, Damien Hirst, rather than anonymity, he used controversy and bold moves to garner attention. Cutting a shark in half and putting it in a block of acrylic or formaldehyde or whatever, or a cow and different things like that.
Is it a real shark?
Yeah, I think so. And a real cow, like a cow from
pictures, but I've never really looked at
the what do you call it? What are they called? The place where they cut cows up for meat.
Slaughterhouse.
The slaughterhouse, whatever. Abattoir, whatever.
It is, an actual place.
I think he had one was a cow, wasn't it? Cut in half sideways. And a shark.
I think people love the unusual, though, don't they?
The diamond-studded skull as well.
And all the butterflies and everything.
I mean, it's quite interesting art. I do quite like a lot of it, but it is a shock factor.
I think there's that line with this sort of thing of, does it become, are you just seen as a bit weird, or does it work? And I think there's a line, isn't there? And I think it's the same with like any marketing. There's a place where you're putting yourself out there and it can be a bit forced and a bit cringy and a bit whereas there's also being genuinely yourself, and I think there is a real balance with that, and possibly that comes with this. If Tim just started cutting cows up and putting them in formaldehyde and stuff, I think that's a bit weird, but it's about framing what you're doing in the right way.
It's also being the first person to do that and make a statement with that and a talking point, and there's a lot of that with art. People go, oh well, they can't even draw. But it's not all about that. It's about the kind of social commentary, the idea, and the creative thinking behind it.
It's the messaging, isn't it, behind it? And the other one is musicians. They've excelled in self-promotion. I think Lorde, she was one that used like sort of free Spotify and getting her music out there without even an intent to make money, was just to gain exposure, massive amounts of exposure.
It's like stuff like, Justin Bieber was found by putting videos on YouTube.
Right.
Like, he started somewhere. He was just some little kid who was like, I like singing, I'm going to put a video up online. And
difficult to do now, though, isn't it?
Much more difficult to do now because it's a much more
Everyone's doing it.
saturated market.
Tim was saying, you've got to be the first to
It
do
is. And
the YouTubers that are huge now as well, they were the ones that were
100%.
putting videos on YouTube.
But I think and this is the key thing with marketing, it's coming up with that clever idea and being the first to it, very, very difficult. But that's where people like Damien Hirst and Banksy have kind of excelled, because they've nailed it to the extent with their front page headlines,
household
globally.
name,
household names globally.
It's having the confidence to put yourself out there. Like, I went to school with a now very well-known YouTuber, and he just had the balls to do it. You know, he was sitting in his bedroom playing FIFA online for years before anyone really knew who he was, just because he loved it and he was like, I want to do this. He made his friends and now he's massive. But
runs a FIFA channel.
It's gaming. Well, it's more than that. It's more than that now. No, he's like one of the biggest YouTubers in the UK, and it's only because of that commitment to just keep doing what you love and keep doing it and sharing it with the world, rather than he could have just been like my partner who plays FIFA at home all the time.
Well, you better tell your partner off. Start a channel.
But they're two different people who grew up at exactly the same time doing the same thing, but one of them put themselves out there and one of them is happy to do it just for themselves.
That's where the mix, isn't it? Of someone having a talent in their area of their area that they want to put themselves out there, but also being good at the marketing in the side.
Right, well, we got to move on because we've got a lot of topics to cover here still. We're going to move on more to Emma's department here. Number 5, what does it take to run a successful creative business? Exploring the core elements of successful creative businesses rather than the work itself, brand, audience. Tell us, Emma, what would you do? Obviously, you're not a creator. I know you do little bits and bobs making jewelry and stuff, but let's say I'm
not a creative by trade.
No, exactly. Let's say you were a creative by trade, but you maintained your marketing brain. What would you do let's do two topics, right? 2 scenarios.
Yeah.
Let's say one, you're a social videographer, photographer for weddings, babies, portraits, that sort of stuff, which is a difficult market as well now. And let's say 2, you're a commercial freelance graphic designer.
Okay, so number 1, if I was setting up a social photography business, you're looking at local. So that's very different to what you're doing if you're doing commercial, like you're working with businesses in London, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say I'm a social photographer in our local area. I'm thinking about profiling who the people I want to work for are. So let's say I do weddings, babies, bit of family portraiture, just all round natural light photography. I'm thinking, where do those people go? So I want to target mums, dads, grandparents. So then you think, right, where do they go? They go to baby groups. They go to local play areas. The mums might be going to the hairdresser, the local beauty salons. And that's where you've got to think about where do they go that isn't looking for photography. So I'd maybe be offering free shoots at baby groups. I'd be putting brochures up in hair salons. I'd be...
The free shoots, free baby shoots though, would be, the shoot would be free, but the selling the prints would be...
selling the prints would
do
be...
that all the time.
Yeah, so I know...
We also book that.
Exactly.
Who's we?
Me and my partner, with our baby.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So there's a, she goes
You've
to...
got a baby?
Yeah, I've got a baby. You've got another baby coming soon. No, we go to baby classes, like usually just the missus or whatever. And they do, there's a photographer there that takes pictures of them for free. And obviously you look at the photos, then you like them, then you buy them. And then you book her for newborn shoots or maternity shoots for the next one. So it definitely works.
Yeah. And wedding fairs.
Wedding fairs, you'd be at wedding fairs,
bridal
craft
dresses,
fairs,
shops.
Bridal shops. You've just got to think about where those people are.
And then go.
You could put ads out for, local portrait photography, blah, 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 but are you going to really hit the people when they're thinking about that?
So it's worth just starting out, just jotting down some notes
100%.
of all these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doing like kind of a mind map, because then you've got like wedding planners, haven't you? So you could connect with the wedding planners, go and have a coffee or that with them and show them your portfolio.
But what I like about your thought pattern there is that's on the ground marketing.
Oh, 100%.
You haven't even mentioned using social media yet to reach people. You're actually thinking about locations these people are going to be going for a natter or looking at stuff.
I think that's where, especially with more localized stuff, that's where you've got to be, because we all see ads for like local companies online, but you don't necessarily, like, in a local community, you trust people and you trust recommendations and you trust experiences of other people. So if you're going to, I don't know, a lovely local venue where you want to get married, if you've got the person who manages events there saying, oh, well, these are the photographers that I recommend, this is who, you're going to trust that more than some nobody online on Facebook. So I think that's one thing that I would say is definitely venues.
Because people will be going to look and book a venue.
Exactly.
And they might be then get a recommendation from...
Have recommendations with venues. One thing I would say for like social photography is I think having a blog is really incredible. So David Stanbury is an amazing example of this. So most of the weddings, or quite a lot of the weddings where someone's allowed him to share their images, he writes a lovely blog about the day, all the flouncy, it was lovely, they did this, they did this. The title, geniusly, he always puts as the wedding venue or the wedding location. So anyone searching, I don't know,
for that venue,
that hall, let's say like, I don't know, Windsor Hall,
whatever.
Kent, it's coming up in the SEO or whatever. So it's just thinking about ways that you can get in front of those people, getting those out, write a blog about, I don't know, 5 things to think before booking your wedding photographer in Birmingham, you know, things like that you can get in front of them as a person who of authority or that does amazing stuff, that's all that inspiration. And that doesn't mean spending a bunch of money putting ads out anywhere.
Blogs are often about offering free advice
100%.
and building that authority and then people trusting you.
So people are getting their advice, they're seeing amazing images, they're thinking, oh, I've seen that person get married in front of that door, it looks beautiful, I want that. And they'll come to you rather than someone else.
And what you've mentioned as well so far doesn't really even incur a large budget, does
No,
it? Because it's just about time, isn't it? It's putting some time down aside.
Yeah.
So I think as well, having, like myself personally, what I've always found over the years is almost setting aside an amount of time that you can afford as a business and as an individual each day or each week or each month, whether it's a day a month, a day a week, or 15 minutes each day that you're going to spend on doing some marketing.
And it's things like that, like if you're writing a blog, even if it's for like a product, you know, say you photograph local breweries or something, you write a blog about this process, blah, 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 blah. You can then be sharing that on socials. That it gives you your content elsewhere and other people will share it. Maybe the company will share it and a rival company will see it and love your work. Like there's so much you can do by actually having content out there.
The interesting, I mean, I've never been involved in social photography, but I think the interesting thing when I have seen people marketing it is also the services they offer. I noticed recently as a trend, and obviously this didn't exist before the internet and everything, but some photographers now offering to stream your wedding live to the guests that can't make it in different countries.
Yeah, that was a bit of a COVID thing, I think.
Amazing, off the back of COVID. Put that into context, but that now is a service that some are offering. So the photographer or videographer might be offering both filming and stills, working in a two-person team, but they may also have a camera set up, streaming live to a particular web page, the actual ceremony, and that you as a couple might think, oh, my so-and-so long-lost friend or so-and-so family in Australia can't able to make it, but it'd be amazing. So if you've got those add-on services...
I think it is. I think you have to really show what you can offer. Like, I'm not saying everyone could be a wedding photographer, they can't, but people think that they can be. You know, some people think, oh, you know, my cousin's got a camera, he can photograph my wedding, why will it be any different? So I think you also, as a social photographer, or, you know, photograph the children, whatever, I think as a social photographer, you really have to show people what the value is in good photography and what the value they can bring you and the comfort they can bring you by hiring a professional who knows what they're doing and can sort of offer you that incredible value.
And you could even look to, if like the streaming might be way out of your expertise, but you could partner up with another
100%.
person that specialises in that, which also could be a good marketing tool, because that same streaming company then might be streaming another wedding, but say actually Emma's amazing at photographing your wedding, so I'd recommend her.
It is that co-marketing, isn't it? That's a huge thing in social photography.
Yeah. All right, let's forget about wedding. I'm bored with them now. I don't want to talk about wedding portrait photographers.
Yeah.
No offence to any of you, David, and all my friends in that arena. I want to move on now to graphic designers. Right?
Yeah.
Tim, between you and Emma, Tim, you're very much more operative in this world of graphic design illustration. How would freelance graphic designers market themselves?
Well, I think the first thing is you need a good portfolio, a good body of work behind you. So if you're just a good designer, but you haven't got any work yet to put out there that you're 100% happy with and proud of, then that would be my first step.
And when just for the listeners that might not be totally au fait with it, for example, graphic designer could be logos, business cards, letterheads, branding,
brochures, anything.
So
the
examples
whole
of
thing.
stuff.
Examples
you've
of
done.
your work and what your specialist areas is. I mean,
what if you're new to it and you haven't done any work yet?
well, then you're not going to be ready to put yourself out.
But you've got to
I would
start
be doing
somewhere.
perspective work.
Or fake work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As in,
so you can just like you're probably starting at this because you love design, you want to be a designer. So just take some subjects that you like, or look at the businesses in your area that you'd like to be targeting. Obviously, if you love diving and all the business in your area is big industry, they're not going to want to see a dive brochure.
No.
So you need to do stuff that they're going to think, actually, that would look amazing. That's so much better than my logo I've had, or my friend's business logo, or my annual report would look amazing if I got him to do it, because that one he's just shown me. That's great. So it's looking at the target audience, isn't it, that you're going to be pitching to, putting together a portfolio of work. And it doesn't need to be hundreds. I'd say you want a sort of minimum of a dozen. You don't want too much work there. I mean, that's where social media can be really good, because things like Instagram and that can be a great way just to have a free kind of portfolio. A website as well, you can set up from free ones to paid services to go into CA. You may be able to create your own website, or if that's not your area of specialties, you might need to go to someone that can create a website for you. So you need to get your kind of marketing collateral there. So you need your portfolio, and then you need a way of showing it to people.
But you're going to have to make a phone call at some point.
You are going to have to make a phone call, but first you need, when you've made that phone call and they said, yeah, that's great, Tim, come and see me on Friday at 2, you then need to take something to show them. Do you know what I mean? So make sure you've got that work that you're proud of first, then do the phone calls, then line up the kind of meetings. Also, you can be doing the same thing online, can't you? You can be putting your stuff out there
you could,
on different social channels.
You could design your own brochure about your graphic design with loads of examples in that shows what you can do, because you've already designed a brochure. You could send that as a PDF by email to lots of businesses with follow-up phone calls to get a conversation going.
I, as a Gen Z person who doesn't like picking up the phone, I would be doing prospective work. So if we think for businesses, LinkedIn is the place to go, really. If you're doing business to business, you want to hit people whilst they're at work, small businesses, whatever you're doing in the local area. I'd be maybe writing LinkedIn articles, which are on LinkedIn, of why a rebrand is so important to a business, and having examples of rebrands that I've done, whether they're fake or not. You could rebrand Google, you could rebrand, I don't know, Beck's beer. Do these personal projects, but swizz it in a way that makes people think, God, I want to do that for my company. Who you want to target. You could put a bit of money in that so it goes to people in the local area, promote it a little bit. But that's the way that I'd be doing it. Or I'd be sending out emails to these people with a link to it. I'd be getting stuff like that out there so that people who don't even realise they need a redesign think that's the person to go to. They know what they're talking about. They're doing this. They need a new logo. I'd be sort of maybe thinking about it that way, rather than just calling up people and saying, I'll do the graphic design. What can I help with? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to have an in, don't you?
Yeah.
Before you, and that's where I was saying, like I said earlier in the chat, like going to these kind of business groups, getting some personal connections with different industries, people in the industries that you're looking to be targeting.
Yeah, one of the areas that I gained a lot of business from in the early years was actually putting yourself forwards to do talks and presentations at various
breakfast
events,
groups,
Chamber of Commerce, breakfast groups, networking groups. There's various types of business groups, or sometimes there are trade shows for a particular industry, and then you can offer to be a speaker at that trade show, which gives you a brilliant opportunity to talk about your work and the more broader subject of that area. But it just gets people thinking of you as an authority on the subject, because they feel, well, if he's up there talking about it, then surely they wouldn't have asked them. Or
I think it is making yourself an authority, making yourself real. And I think with like graphic design and that, it is again about the person, isn't it? You want to trust that they can take that vision, that their work's amazing, that they can do what you want from them. And I think
that might also put in their mind that they need a rebrand or something.
Exactly, I think
they might not even considered it, and they're a captive market because they just sat there watching you talk for whatever you want to talk
100%.
about.
Yeah, I mean, when I started doing websites, we were probably one of the first people in this area doing websites back in sort of 95, 96, and we had to literally go and talk to businesses about why a website and an email could really benefit their business. So that was my first in would be going and doing a presentation to a board of directors or the owners of a business and presenting to them what this could do for them, and getting them excited about that. And that was a good way in. And also locally here, there used to be a kind of support group for new businesses starting up that kind of had a bit of a mentoring from people that were already successful in business in the local area. They gave a bit of time, and then if they thought you had legs, your business, they'd help you with your business and your marketing plan a little bit, but then they'd kind of partner you up with other businesses that were starting up, and that was a really good way of getting in the door, because you'd work maybe a little bit cheaper than you perhaps would want to help some of the startups.
I've worked as an advisor on several businesses on those government schemes, startup schemes, and I'm going to be brutally honest here. I am absolutely amazed how lack of common sense sometimes. People come along going, I want to start a business in this, and I go, okay, have you figured out what your market is? Supply and demand is everything in business. Okay, there is nothing else. The basic fundamentals, supply and demand. What do we mean by that? It means, what are the services you're supplying and who else are supplying it, and what is the demand for that service? You might, for example, be wanting to sell bags of sand, but if you're doing that in the Sahara Desert, not going to be much use, okay? So supply and demand's absolutely crucial. And so many startup businesses come to me and say, I've got an idea. I think one was a dating agency or a dating app for elite people. And I said, do you really think in this sort of community area that's going to take off? Have you done the numbers? Because they wanted to charge like a membership. And I said, how many people do you think you would actually need? People don't often do the numbers in a spreadsheet of, right, this is what I want to earn, or this is what I need to earn, this is what I need to pay myself. That means I need X amount of customers paying this amount of money per year, boom, boom. And then they go, I live in a town of 20 people. Of course, it's not going to work, and this is the fundamental supply and demand things people just overlook because they get carried away with the idea of running a business rather than the reality of what the market actually is and requires.
I think that's why creatives are historically quite bad at marketing themselves, because a lot of them, you've come to it as that's your hobby or your dream,
your passion.
job, your passion. So you're coming at it from, you just love being a creative and doing the work,
rather than it's a money-making venture.
Rather than looking at writing down what all your outgoings are, like your rent, your mortgage, your kind of food, what it costs you to live and to run your business and your household per month.
That needs
and
a
then
spreadsheet.
realizing that in that spreadsheet you need to make X amount each week to cover your costs. And that's your bottom line, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Anything you make over that is a profit.
I mean, that's actually going off. We should probably do a separate topic on running a business and business skills, because that is a crucial part in actually, before you even commit to thinking about marketing, is understanding what you want to make. Don't guess what you're going to make. No. Don't guess what you might get. You have to categorically say, I want to earn this much, I want to make this much, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it with this business. Can it work first?
Yeah. But then I'd say that kind of gives you a angle with your marketing plan, because I'd say it's worth putting together a plan, even if it's a very loose plan, like scribbling down some ideas how you're going to make money. I mean, one thing that's really interesting, I had a friend that used to do loft conversions, and he used to get all the people he did some work for, or he was like kind of a household handyman. He had a really nice picture of the local area, like a beautiful, almost a postcard type image. That was a fridge magnet, and it had his phone number on it and his name on it.
So a fridge magnet.
And he said he got so much work because he'd go and do a little repair job for their house. They'd give them that. It was a beautiful fridge magnet.
Yeah.
His name and phone number was very small in the bottom corner. They put it on their fridge, which was by the phone. So whenever something went wrong or they were thinking about doing some work in their house. So it's just a novel idea like that. No one normally, if you're a carpenter or a builder, you might go to an agency or you ask a friend to do a logo or that, but you wouldn't normally think of putting a kind of postcard image on it.
It's funny you say postcards, because that's one of the things we used to use a lot in marketing, was sending postcards with the final images on, really high quality images, and sending different postcards out to different agencies regularly. It didn't cost much for the printing for an A5 postcard, nice little message on it, and then send those out, and you're literally reminding art directors every week with a new postcard.
And you could be seasonal with that as well, can't you? Like, you could send out, I don't know, in September, to all if you're a family photographer, get your family shoots ready for your Christmas cards, or to give your grandparents at Christmas, or to businesses, get your Christmas campaign shoots ready. You just have to think outside the box a bit, I think.
If you're sending some out that's cool and inspiration as well, people are likely just to put it on their notice board, on the pin board, or leave it on the desk.
I guess with that as well, you're not just going to chuck that in the bin.
No.
Fridge magnet, it's like doesn't feel right,
So it is about, I'd say, putting a loose plan together. Making sure that there is the business in your area that you're pitching to, or do you need to broaden your catchment area to make enough money to...
All right, well, we're going to wrap this up soon because we're going to run out of time. But here's a couple of things. So, Ben, you're going to think about right now, because you're a videographer, right? Yeah. You work as head of video production in here. You've worked on all sorts of things, from commercials for companies to a BBC documentary with me, editing all of our creative content. But let's say I sacked you today, right? Just for fun. Let's say I sacked you and you had to venture out into the world of, oh my God, I'm unemployed. And what is my skill set? My skill set is I know how to film. I know a bit about lighting. I've worked on various large scale projects from television downwards. I'm an expert in video editing and some of the graphics, etc., or whatever you call it, 3D association with video editing. How would you go about marketing yourself to get a new job? Because even if you're going for a job, you're marketing yourself, like even sending a CV is a form of marketing.
Portfolio.
Or if you decided, I'm going to try and work for myself, what would you do? And I'm not asking you to answer that right now. You can have a minute to think about it. So you have a minute to think about that.
Drop Emirates.
Right.
Here's my notice.
Because while you're thinking about that, I'm going to give Emma some closing thoughts to think about. So Ben's busy thinking about that. Emma is going to start thinking for some closing thoughts on the marketing. What I'd like you to tell our listeners and our audience is what you do here and all the marketing you do for our business. Our business is a creative business. Obviously, you're involved in the educational side of our business. For those that are listening to this podcast, you may have heard, obviously, the individuals around the table have got their roles, myself as a commercial photographer, Tim as a creative director and illustrator. But collectively, we work in a business that sells education for all various visual creative genres, and Emma is in charge of the marketing on that. There is an expense, there's a marketing budget. We haven't spoken. I don't want you to tell our audience how expensive and large our 6-figure marketing budget is, but you have to consider money as
100%.
part of marketing. Yes, you can go round different places and networking and do this, but you do need a marketing budget. And like we were saying, you've got to put it into the plan, into the business plan.
You do.
So you have a think about that for a minute, about what we do marketing-wise, and anything you say that's confidential, I'm going to cut it out of this podcast.
I'm going to tell all
I'm
our
going to come back to Ben now, who's shaking like a leaf, thinking about, oh my God, I'm out of a job. What am I going to do to market myself as a creative videographer? What would you do? Got any ideas?
I think just obviously having that dropped on me now, I think obviously I'd create a website starting off, whether that was like I made it via Wix or Squarespace.
You could go and see Tim for that.
You go and see Tim, you try and offer me more than Carl does, and then
so a website.
Yeah, website. Oh, then because that's somewhere you could put your show reel, because you'd obviously
need a show reel. That's a good point. So let's talk about a show reel for a videographer.
Yeah, so I'd take all the the coolest clips.
What is a show reel? I mean, I know what it is, but let's just get it clear
like
for the audience.
A 1 to 2 minute video, just basically showing off the best work you've done, whether that's effects, and you would probably put a little title saying like effects and what the job was. So that's
got to be a really cool edit anyway. So that shows your editing skill and your filming skills.
Yeah, and you'd probably want to put like we've done videos for Hasselblad, Manfrotto, etc.
BBC, whatever.
You'd put that in.
You want to name drop a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Of course you do. Because that shows if those big companies trust you, then
okay.
Smaller companies.
So let's say you build and make a really cool website, and you use some really cool material from work that you've worked on over the years.
Yeah.
That's just making a website. Someone's got to see it.
Yeah, then I guess if you've got that show reel that you've made as well, like what we did for the BBC when we were trying to sell the documentary. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, it's already on television.
I think if it's been on the BBC, you can talk about it.
It's out there on Apple TV and Amazon Prime.
Let's use this as a plug.
When we were selling the documentary, we sent out brochures with video screens in showing the trailer of the documentary, so you could do that with a show reel. Yeah. You could send that out to I guess businesses over here that you push it to them as though they might want to get some more extra business. If it was a restaurant, you could even go there and just be like, oh, can I film? So that would be videography services from a social media point of view for those restaurants or their own websites. I suppose you probably, depending on where you live and that, you probably, if it was just videography that you were doing, you'd have to look at weddings. I guess you'd have to consider that. Whether personally, I probably wouldn't want to ever do weddings, but I would. Why not? I don't know. I think it should be too stressful. I don't think I could filming all day, having to get those exact shots, miking everyone up. With photography, I don't want to say that it's easier, but it might be for a wedding. Is it easier for a wedding? I think it's just you work with an elite bunch of professionals. So it's easier for you. We make your life easy. Because there's so many video, there's so many considerations. So it's not like, obviously you retouch your photos and you have to, frame them up and whatever. But with video, you'd have to make sure you captured all the speeches, so that all the people that did speeches would have to be mic'd up. You probably have to have 2 camera people. You probably want drone footage of the venue was nice. So it's like becomes a whole. You're diversifying here into actually the techniques. I want to know how you're going to get the business. So where are you going to put yourself out there? What are you going to do? Business cards? Yeah, business cards. And then also you have wedding fairs and stuff if you were doing weddings. And even just going into restaurants and saying can I film the restaurant? And you can just use let's say, for example, our fellow cameraman, James Harrison, who we've worked with many times, he doesn't operate in the wedding sphere. He operates only in commercial videography and filming. But he's managed to build a client list that does take him around the world for filming. I think he even was filming medical operations and was it dental stuff as well, various stuff. Bizarre. From an industry, business to business point of view, there are many, professional level
areas where they need something recorded accurately to show it to other people, and the medical field is one example, but I'm sure there's many others.
It's just being clever and finding those gaps in the market. That's what it is.
He finds them, I guess, because he's doing that full time. So.
Thinking outside the box.
I mean, he does a lot of work for hospitality, tourism.
Most businesses nowadays need video for their marketing.
Whether they know it or not.
Whether it's like...
They usually try and do it on their phone.
A lot of them do, but then I think that's where it comes down to actually going and show them how great, like I was going back to the example when I first started, going and tell people what a website could be. And people go, I don't need a website. And then look at exactly, we are now, and who's Google? We don't need Google.
You could potentially offer like kind of social media packages, maybe, so you'd make a bit of video for them.
Like, packages is a good idea.
Packages is really good.
Videos a month.
People love packages because it's easy to understand what you're going to get for your money. Because normally you enter into a conversation with a new service and you think, oh yeah, and it's going to cost this, and then it's going to cost me that, and then they're going to charge me that and that. Whereas a package, you know, it's a set fixed price, like a set menu. I always go back to restaurants. It's like a set. I'm hungry, but it's a set menu, isn't it?
Yeah, like using your example as a restaurant, it may be that there's a restaurant in your location.
He's hungry.
I'm hungry now.
But for example, there might be a restaurant in your location that's doing really well, doing some amazing videos going out on socials that they're helping get there, like about the food or the atmosphere, the vibe in the place. Then you could go along to some of their competitors and say, look, they're doing some great video stuff. You're kind of falling a little bit behind here because you're not. So it's looking at your skill sets, isn't it? Putting a list of them down and then looking at what there is in your area, unless you're going to be traveling, but then there's costs. So you've got to build that up into there. But it's easier to start in your local area with people that you know and businesses that you know, and just approaching them saying, look, I could show you how I could help you with this. Your competitors are doing it. Why don't you consider it?
That would be the starting point, wouldn't it? To actually note down the skills that you can do and what you could offer, and where a business might actually do that.
And then that kind of comes around to your show reel. You then need to, if you're going to go to the restaurant, to hopefully get a free meal when you've done the videoing, because you've got not much money and your baby's just arrived, and you're a bit down on your luck. Then you want to have then you want to have a.
We want you to have a plan, Ben.
In your show reel, you want to have some great clips of a restaurant and the kind of. Is the kind of video that you're trying to persuade them to pay you to do, so they can actually see. Actually, you've got some great work there, Ben, and push that. And then
all right, Ben. You're safe. Your job is safe. Right. Okay. We're going to wrap this up, guys, and we're going to let Emma tell us a little bit about the marketing that she does here. And also, you've done a lot of marketing training as well, which you
I've done a bit
if you want.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of training. I think it is important to. So I never went to university to do marketing. You hired me as a little 18-year-old, and I've learned on the job. But I think that's also really important. I think whilst you can do.
How old are you now?
I was 27 this week.
Oh my God!
I know. I'm almost retired. But no, I've been here quite a while, and I've learnt from the ground up, which I think has been a really nice thing because I've had to do everything along the way. But I think there is a, what's the word? It is good to do a level of training. There is stuff out there that's free for anyone. Marketing does seem scary, but it's actually not. And you can learn to do pretty much anything online. You just have to be a little bit clever about what you want to do, and you can find the tools there. Google's got a lot of stuff out there. There are ones that are paid. Like at the moment, I'm doing a sort of degree level marketing course. So I've completely digressed, but I think it is important to know that there is stuff out there.
So
and if you want to learn, there is so much online. You don't have to think, oh God, I need to run a business, I need to go to university. It's just absolutely bonkers.
Well, there's a lot of tools and advice and guides.
100% books, yeah, there are some amazing books.
I nearly said the word SHI. Some are full of crap, aren't they?
Sorry, is crap better than saying?
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I think people think marketing's scary. They think they're alone. They think there's nothing out there, but that is not the case at all. There is so much out there. But from a sort of what we do, we have quite a plan of what we want to do with our marketing. So we vary from everything from online paid ads. We do quite a lot of that on Facebook, Google search, Instagram. We have our mailing lists where we email our current members to keep them engaged.
How do we get those mailing lists? Be good to explain that.
Lead generation. So this is
lead generation. Here we go.
Oh, look at
Let's get into lead generation.
So a mailing list is really great. A mailing list you own the people. You don't own the people on your mailing list, but Facebook could shut down tomorrow. And if all of your marketing is on Facebook, you're screwed. If Facebook shuts down, says, no, we don't want anyone's business, that's it. You can't get out there. So having a mailing list is great because you actually own the people.
I'm just going to clarify for the audience. Mailing list could be a actual physical address, postal address and name, which a lot of businesses run mailing lists on that.
Yeah.
But it can also just be an email where you've got the name of the person, their first name and last name, and their email address.
Yeah.
We run primarily email mailing lists that people have given us voluntarily their email. Lead generation.
Yeah. So using lead generation, you're thinking the people that we want to sell to, that we want to get on board, what do they want and what can we offer them in exchange for their email address?
It's a deal.
It is.
It's an exchange.
We primarily began with photography education. So we knew if people were getting into photography, those are the people we want to capture right at the beginning, give them a really good impression. So we offered an introduction to photography brochure. Free course as well. So in exchange for that free course, we'll take your email address, we'll update you on loads of amazing stuff in the photography sphere. You get this free course and all that content.
But let me just want to slightly step in there. So, but the rationale behind giving them the free photography course and getting their beginner's photography course and getting their email address is that we then have an email address that, as we believe they will grow as photographers, they might then decide to move into more complex areas of photography, such as lighting and studio lighting. We're not interested in selling courses on beginner level stuff because that's not our business. So we can afford to give that away for free, but we know that is all photographers' stepping stones into the more complex stuff 100%. That we do sell. So the rationale behind that is get an email address for them for the future.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so that we can introduce ourselves to them. We can show them what we can offer them as time goes on and how we can make them a better photographer. And if in the future they're like, oh, I really want to learn about lighting, I want to take this to the next level, we're in their minds that's what we are.
And we've done other lead generators as well, haven't we? Like simple recipe cookbooks, as in scenarios.
Here's the lighting diagram, the kit we used.
Just little 1 or 2 free setups in exchange for an email address to then continue marketing to them. Yeah. And that list has grown to hundreds of thousands over years and years and years of marketing.
And there are other ways you can do it. Like if you're thinking more sort of locally, if you are doing like social photography, maybe you have a list of things you need to think about before your wedding. If you're having a wedding in Birmingham, these are the list of things you have to think about.
So that's the freebie you give away.
That's the freebie you give.
And you get their email address.
You get their email address. Then you know that they, at some point, for some reason, cared about what was needed for a wedding.
And then you're also got the opportunity there to introduce your brand. You make sure 100%. That what you're giving them looks amazing. It's on brand, on point, and it's got the information they want. Yeah. So once they've got that, they've then got a feel-good fact about your brand. They've enjoyed reading the document. You've sent them the free guide, the free recipe of how to do maybe a food shoot or a wedding shoot, like a checklist. Yeah. They've enjoyed that. So then when you email them with some more inspirational stuff on the next email, they hopefully start to look forward to an informative, inspirational
and sometimes they almost feel obliged because you've helped them in some way in the past as well. Yeah. So that's lead generation, email marketing, which we do a lot of.
Yeah.
And we do paid. And also email marketing isn't free because you have to pay money
it's not free at all.
Send thousands of emails out.
No.
We also, as you said, do social media marketing, paid social media marketing, where you see our adverts appear in places. But let's talk about where we choose those ads to appear. One of the interesting things people might not understand is prospecting and retargeting. Talk a little bit about that.
So we do a mix of prospecting and retargeting. So prospecting being putting ads in front of people who have essentially never heard of you before. We've got no tracking on them and where they've been, but we can put them into a demographic of what they are. So if we're wanting to reach photographers, we can reach people who have put their interest on Facebook as photography, or who are actively working as photographers, or whatever it may be.
Or even, I think it goes as far as they may have searched out videos on YouTube about specific
100%.
subjects, which then puts them in a bin, if you like, with Google.
Exactly.
As to they've got an interest in this.
Like a lookalike.
You can, that's sort of our prospecting. We can create lookalike audiences based on, we've seen these people have seen our ads and subscribed, so we can create an audience that's similar to that, but not the same people. And there's lots you can do. But the thing is, actually, it looks scary when you go onto the ad platform, but there are really good like automated ways of just doing it. Yeah. You can get advanced with it, but also if you want to just put a load of ads out to people who are between this age and this age in a certain local area, it's not actually that bad. It is actually quite intuitive. And
especially if you're marketing just locally, isn't it? On
so much
media.
Easier.
It's a lot easier because then you can set a budget of a low budget to just test the water. So you don't have to be worried that it's going to cost you hundreds or thousands of pounds. You can just say, I'm going to limit this to 10, 15 pounds, put a campaign out there with some great visuals and content and see how it kind of goes down. And
so that's your prospecting.
That's your prospecting. And then you've also got your retargeting. So retargeting can be done in a few different ways. So you've got...
What is it first?
Oh, retargeting. I just assume people know. It's really bad of me, I know. So retargeting is putting ads in front of people who already have interacted with you in some way.
Such as
liking your posts already. So they might have liked a Facebook post of yours. They might have watched a video for more than 15 seconds. They might have followed you. There's that sort of thing. But then there's also retargeting through a pixel. So whether someone has actually visited your website before. So that's quite a lot of what we do, a lot of retargeting based on visiting our website. So we know that if Ben's visited our website, looked at our page on product photography, explored it for a little bit, he's probably interested in product photography, so we can then retarget him with an ad saying, jump in now, 50% off our annual plan, product photography, amazing.
And your marketing strategy is different, isn't it, for prospecting or retargeting?
100%.
Because retargeting, they already know who you are and are familiar and have explored a little bit about you.
So you can talk very differently to those people. And it comes down again to just that sort of always having with your marketing an idea in your head of who you're actually talking to. Like
so a persona,
it is,
isn't it? The sort of term marketing companies use.
It is. It's having a persona of, right, I want to talk to these people, they know who I am, they've seen me before, they've been on this blog. How do they want to be spoken to? What message actually is important to them? And then also, if they've never heard of me before, how do I introduce myself? How do I introduce the brand, and what our ethos
and
is?
if people are thinking about marketing themselves, it's almost worth writing down those personas, because that will then get, from that persona, then you can build your marketing plan. Then you
imagine who your audience are.
Imagine who, make some notes, the sort of person, like the sort of places they go. Like we've mentioned a few different ones, like the sort of wedding star photography. They go to the different, like the wedding planners. You can approach the kind of baby groups, those sort of places. But that, from your persona, you get the bare bones of your marketing plan, don't you?
You kind of have to be a bit cringe with it. Like, we've made up names for them before, where like, you know, you get a little stock image and you make up a name and you think, right, what is Joe Blogs Googling? What do they care about? What is, because you can sort of go down a path where you suddenly think of something and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what we need a blog post on, because that's what those people care about. And obviously using other tools to
and another
figure out
step
if it's
beyond
true.
that is a lot of big companies, and some of the ones I've worked for, the personas are actually derived from market research.
100%.
They go on the street and interview people and ask them
or
what they
like
want.
forms on your website, or even on social media. You can do really simple. You can have little like Q&A polls and that. So
to find out more about them.
You can. People like interacting with those, but also it can be a great tool to find out some more information about, do people like this or do they like that kind of questions.
What else you got on your list?
What else have I got? I've got, so this is a bit more of like just a general what everyone should do, I think, in my mind. So first of all, you need some sort of plan. You need to be doing these brainstorms. You need to be thinking, what realistically can I do in the next week, in the next month, in the next year? Doesn't have to all be done at once. You don't have to do it all alone. But actually having it written down that these are the things that I want to achieve in 6 months, I think is so important, because otherwise you just get lost in like, oh, I'm making 1,000 Instagram posts because I think this is right, but maybe it's not, I don't know. And then to review that plan. So you want a return on your investment, whether that's a time investment or a monetary investment. You don't want to be spending, like if you were spending 3 days a week just putting Instagram posts and stories up about your life, but you were getting absolutely no money from that, it is a complete waste of your time, and you might as well be doing something else or getting a job at Waitrose. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, there's no point. So it's reviewing that plan, having a genuine, serious think with yourself, like, is this making me money? Is it worth it? You don't need to do it all at once. And just about testing and having fun with it. Like, not everything that you do is gonna be good in marketing. Like, we have flops with ads. Like, sometimes you put an advert out and you think it's gonna be amazing, and you're like, this is the messaging, and it just doesn't stick with people. And then sometimes you're like, oh, is this gonna be good? And then it's like your best performing ad that you've had in months, or your best performing social media, or
it might just be the image.
Like sometimes,
might be the headline.
sometimes we'll craft an image and it'll be like perfect, and then we'll put it up on socials and we're like, it just goes down like a dead duck. And then you take a little snap on a Friday afternoon whilst we're playing table football, and loads of people love it, and it really engages and inspires. So I think it's about not being afraid to just put stuff out, see what happens, and roll along with it, really.
One final thing I'd like to add there is what I always have felt and have discovered in marketing from 30 odd years in self-employed business is clarity of message. If people don't know what you're offering, if it's not clear within the first 5 seconds, then you're going to struggle, because people have, and especially today, people have got so little time to study something and look for the fine print or the details. So it's got to be very clear what you're offering.
I think it's even less time than that now. I think if your web page hasn't loaded within the second, and the message isn't clear and hooked people in to want to read that a little bit further. People don't really read now. They kind of
scan.
They scroll and scan. And if an image or a heading then jumps out and go, oh, that's interesting, then that hooks them in, and then you've got them, and then they'll spend 5, 10, 15 minutes reading it, or an hour, like watching a video or something.
Actually, a good point here. We'll let Tim come in on this one. Landing pages. In terms of marketing potential, what is a landing page? What does it do? And what is the importance, again, of that continuity?
Yeah, so you want a landing page is there to kind of almost try and seal the deal, to try and get the message across for something that you've put out there on an advert. How do they get to the landing page? So it's normally off a kind of advert or from an email campaign. So you'd have a campaign of adverts, whether it's just on one channel out there, like say a Facebook advert, or it might be a campaign across all types. It might even be on print, press, magazine advertising, online, socials, email, YouTube, and it's all driving people back to a specific page. And that landing page, you're looking to do some work to create a conversion, either a sale or to acquire a email address or a contact detail for someone. So you need to make sure the messaging between your advert and that landing page is very clear. And this is because the big thing in marketing, especially with online, is the bounce rate. People will see a great advert. You might have a picture of a car that you photographed, a car that we're advertising, learn how to shoot a car like this. They land on a landing page and it's got a picture of a wedding photograph on it, or a portrait. And then they're like, well, I was interested in a car. I'm jarred. And also if the branding in that isn't on point, and there's not a clear connection between the two points, between the starting point, the bit of bait you've put out there, like the advert there, if there's not a nice synergy when they land on the page, again, it jars, doesn't it? So
it's amazing how many people get this wrong in all types of businesses as well. But I was looking at those little garden rooms that you can build, like they're almost like
sheddy summer houses,
but they're more upmarket than a shed. They're like a proper outbuilding, nicely timbered, and you could put a gym in them or whatever. And I saw an amazing advert for one, and for some reason it just looked like the bottom of my garden, and it looked like it would fit perfectly, and there was like a gym room in it. And I said to Tim about this, And I found the advert, because the problem was that the advert really got me, and I thought, oh, me and the wife would love that. Click the advert, and it just went to their homepage.
Yeah.
And their homepage had everything from like doors and garage doors and various other stuff, but it didn't take me to what I wanted to see. I couldn't find it immediately. I just left the website straight away. So they just wasted their money on that advert, because they didn't have a landing page for the product.
We actually spent 10, 15 minutes trying to find that product.
Exactly. I wanted to,
So that's a really good example of something done really badly.
All that effort and money into the advert.
They've wasted money.
And that's the bounce rate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's it, everyone just leaves. So they'll be like, going, why didn't that advert work? And because you didn't think about where the advert went to, where it led to.
The same as that, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, almost more than the TV. And quite often I see almost more local adverts for services and business locally. And they've created a video, or maybe even just a still kind of slideshow style cheap advert, but there's no sound or something on it. So straight away, it just falls dead. It's almost like I think, well, why you could have gone the extra mile of purchase a piece of royalty-free music, put it on there, and at least it wouldn't have kept the kind of caught my attention of that. You almost think there's an error with that advert, because where's the sound gone? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, so it's making sure that what you put out there is right for the channel that you're putting it on. Like if you're putting a story up, it's kind of, people are expected to almost be filmed ad hoc on the phone in the moment. So there's a bit of a rawness to that. But if you're doing a pre-roll on YouTube, you might want a more carefully crafted and scripted video, because you want to capture someone in the first half a second or so. You don't want them to click the skip button, which comes up in 3 seconds time. So those badly made adverts, which just looks like they haven't really made much effort, there's no sound. I'm thinking, well, I wouldn't want to buy anything from that company, because my feel for the brand is poor, because the advert was poor for this.
So really hire Ben when he hasn't got a job to make your good videos.
They'd have been much better to hire Ben. I think Ben, there's a lot of work locally.
What Ben does know is how important it is to get some of the really good stuff at the beginning to draw people in.
We've done so much research on pre-rolls and stuff, haven't we?
Because you know well that if you're editing a video that's an advert, if you don't show them the goodies and the gold within the first 10 seconds to hook them, to then make them stay to see it more in depth.
Your branding as well. So at least if they click off, they've at least seen some of your branding.
I think really it's all about being aware of marketing around you. Like, I think I'm hyper aware of what other brands do for their marketing, because I'm always thinking, how can we apply that to us?
I know, but also now when I see an advert, I know why they've written it that way, because I can think, actually, there's the marketing person in me coming out.
But when you're new to this, you're completely blind and oblivious to all of this
And there's
stuff.
a sort of wrap up. If you're new to this, what I'd say is the first thing to do is look at your business and your sort of niche. First of all, make sure there is a business there, but that's another kind of discussion on the business side. And then first thing would be just scribble down some personas of the people, whether it's company bosses, big CEOs, or families, young people for engagement shoots, wedding shoots. Write down your little persona. From that, you can write a quick little marketing plan, or you can even search up, get a loose structure for a marketing plan online. And then that will give you some targets of stuff you need. And then you can think about, what do I need? So you need some collateral, you need some imagery, something visual to put out there, whether you're putting it out on social, whether you're getting stuff printed, whether you're making videos. You need to get that. Are you going to build it yourself, or do you need to pay someone to do it? And then you've got to work out, once you've got all the tools, you've got your work, your portfolio, and everything's there ready to go. You've got the stuff to put out and promote it. Then you've got to have a think about, going back to your persona, how can I reach those people? Is it LinkedIn? Do I need to go to some networking business events in the local area? Do I need to go to the mothers and toddlers groups? Or do I need to go to the wedding planners, etc., or to the restaurant to have a meal and get chatting to the chef because I want to do a video for his restaurant? So it's coming up with that structure based on the persona and your kind of target market, and then working out what a realistic amount of time you can be spending on this each day, each week. So you don't just spend, obviously you're just setting up a business, you need to spend more time on the marketing to start with, but you need to also make some money. So it's a compromise between, do I do every social channel, or do I just do LinkedIn? Do I just do X? Do I just do Facebook? Do I just do Instagram? And take it from there. So it's having that plan, a bit of a structure and a kind of idea of where you're going forward. So you've got a direction to go, and then review it every week, every month, every few months, and make sure it's working. If it's not working, go back to the personas at the start, tweak it and look, and also document what you're doing, like your spreadsheets, your database in your CRMs and they call client relationship management sort of systems.
And that, folks, is why Tim is a successful creative, because he's learned his marketing. Right, I think that'll do us, guys. We're out of time. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you found that useful. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website, visualeducation.com.
We're going to be adding marketing classes, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Marketing classes.
I filmed a load. We will be getting those out.
Yeah, we have got plenty more content.
There's some already. There's quite a lot of business content.
Okay, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks very much.
Bye.
This was the Learn, Create, Thrive podcast, hosted by visualeducation.com.